Hi, this is Scott Marshman with eCabinets Tips and Tricks. Today we're going to wrap up our user form that we're building that's going to allow us to select the different worksheets that we have visible in our master workbook and print those worksheets. Today we're going to be programming the select all, deselect all, print selected, and cancel buttons, as well as this print worksheet button here in our home page. So let's get started. What I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and program this button. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to assign macro and click on new and just type the user form name frm print ws, and I'm just going to say dot show, and that's going to let us bring up our user form just like that. So let's get started programming the rest of our buttons there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some code that we already wrote in our other user form that we made, the one that will allow us to import the different worksheets from the workbook that eCabinets generates. I'm going to rob the code from the select all button, so I'm going to double click on it, and I'm just going to select everything between private sub and hen sub. Copy that, go back into our user form here, double click on that button and paste it right there. That's all we need to do to that. So let's go back into our user form, rob the code from deselect all, come back into here, double click and paste that. Pretty straightforward, simple. Now if you haven't viewed my videos on how I built this user form right here, I'll get into all the detail on programming these buttons and all this other stuff. Make sure you check out those videos. Let's go ahead and program the cancel button. So I'm going to double click on it and I'm just going to say unload me. And that's going to unload the user form. Now let's get to this print selected button here. I'm going to go ahead and double click on it and it gets my subroutine started. We're in the click event there. I'm going to get some more code from that same user form. I'm going to use some code here that we have in the delete selected worksheets button. I'm going to grab these variables here. We're going to use all of them but one. I'm going to copy them, come into here, get back in my code and paste them right there. Now we're not going to have any message boxes, so I'm just going to delete that. Now I don't have to delete it. I can leave it right there. We're not going to use it, so it don't matter. Now I want to grab some more code from this very same button. What I want is I want this for next loop here that checks all the controls in the user form and checks to see if it's a checkbox. And if it is a checkbox, then it traps the caption that is in that checkbox into this variable here, cbcap. And then we set this WSFound, this variable here, to be false. Then we go into another for next loop that looks at each worksheet in the master workbook and checks to see if that worksheet's name equals whatever's in this variable, cbcap. If it does match, it sets this variable WSFound to be true and exits this loop. Then, right down here, if WSFound equals true, it executes some code, and this is what we're going to be modifying. So I'm going to go ahead and select all this right here from for each control to next control. I want to copy that, get back into our print worksheet user form and into our print selected button there. I'm just going to right click and paste. Now I just need to neaten this up a little bit. I want to tab that out and tab this in. Now what we need to do is just delete this right here. After if WSFound equals true, I'm going to delete that. And what I want to do is I want to go over a few things. When you're dealing with printing worksheets using a user form, you need to make sure that the user form that you're selecting the worksheets from is hidden before it brings up the print preview. Because if you don't, it's going to lock up the system. So what I want to say right here is me.hide. And trust me, it will lock it up just about every time. There's no way you could get out of it. You have to do a hard shutdown on your computer, and it's just bad news. So make sure you say me.hide and everything will be fine. You don't want to unload it, you want to hide it. If you unload it, it's going to break the code and it's not going to print the rest of your worksheets for you. So now the next thing I want to talk about is, if you followed along on creating this user form here, you remember that we set the show model property for this user form to be false, so that we can actually go into the workbook that eCabinets generates and look at the different worksheets in that workbook and see if we needed to import them or not. And that's all well and good, but by having this set to false, we can actually have this user form up here. And we can actually have this user form up at the same time. Now notice this user form, the show model is set to true, so I can't click on anything. I can't click on this. Now if we got this up and then we do click on our print selected button, this one's still going to be up, but it's going to be grayed out and we can't get rid of it, which will then not allow us to print anything at all. So what we have to do is check to see if this particular user form is visible or not, and if it is visible, we want to completely unload it. So I'm going to use an if statement for that. I'm going to say if, and I need the actual name of that user form spelled identically the same. Make sure it's spelled the same. So the next thing I want to do is say dot visible equals true, and then I'm going to go ahead and end my if statement. And what I want to do is just unload it. So I'm going to say unload form select sheets. And that'll get it unloaded. So we got the print worksheet user form hidden, and we've unloaded this user form if it is visible. The next thing we need to do is print out the worksheet. So I'm going to say ws.printPreview. And that's all I need to get it to print preview window up. The next thing I want to do is uncheck the checkbox for that particular worksheet that we're on in this loop. So I'm going to say control CTRL dot value equals false. And that's going to uncheck the checkbox. Now at the very end of our sub here, before end sub, I want to go ahead and unload that user form, or print worksheet user form. Right now we have it hidden. It's still active. We just can't see it. So we want to go ahead and unload that. I'm going to say unload me. And that's everything we need. Let's run our user form and see how it works. Click on print worksheets. I'm going to select these three right here and print selected. There's our cut list summary. We can come into our page setup, do whatever we need to do here, and print it out. I'm not going to print it out. I'm just going to close it. And you can see it brings up the next one, the sheet stock summary, and then the board stock summary. And that's it. Let's see what happens if we have this one open. And then we click our button to print. You see it brings it up. I'm just going to click this one right here, print selected, and it brings it up. It shut that user form down, unloaded it. Let's check out our select all and deselect all. That worked, and checked out our cancel button. So that'll wrap it up for this series. Make sure you stay tuned for my next series, because what we're going to be doing is working with this 5-piece door breakdown worksheet. Now I've had a few requests on how to shorten this cut list up. As you can see right here, I've only got like 10 or 12 cabinets, but I've got 181 rows in this cut list. What I'm going to be showing you is a way that you could shorten this up in this particular case right here from 181 rows to something around 25 or 30. So make sure you stay tuned for those videos. And that being said, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe so you can get all my latest tips and tricks. And hey, if this video helped you out, how about give me a thumbs up? And as always, thank you for watching and have a good day.